Imagine standing on a platform in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by flames, with no escape. What if you knew the disaster could have been stopped, but wasn't? This is the story of the Deepwater Horizon disaster, and you won't believe what they didn't tell you about the worst oil spill disaster in history. Don't miss this. Stick around to uncover the truth. You're standing on the edge of the Gulf of Mexico, watching a shimmering black tide creep toward the shore. It's April 20th, 2010, and the Deepwater Horizon rig has just exploded. 11 men are missing, flames are devouring the platform, and deep below the ocean's surface, a catastrophe is unfolding that will change the Gulf forever. But here's the kicker. Most people think the Gulf of Mexico spill was just a tragic accident. A one-off mistake? Wrong. This wasn't just bad luck. It was a chain of failures, ignored warnings, and a culture of cutting corners that cost lives, livelihoods, and an entire ecosystem. Picture this. You're a fisherman in Louisiana, waking up to find your boat useless, your waters poisoned, and your future stolen by the environmental disaster that's now your reality. Or maybe you're a scientist, watching dolphins wash ashore, dead, in numbers you've never seen before. Over 900 in the years that followed. This wasn't just an oil spill, it was a betrayal of trust. So why does this matter to you? Because the BP oil spill exposed a terrifying truth. The systems we rely on, big corporations, safety protocols, even government oversight, can fail spectacularly when greed and haste take over. And the scariest part? It could happen again. Wait, did you know BP was warned hours before the explosion? Yet they pressed on. Why? Let's dive into the chaos of that fateful night. On April 20th, 2010, the Deepwater Horizon wasn't an oil extraction platform. It was a drilling rig, tasked with creating a borehole 5,000 feet below the ocean's surface. The crew was wrapping up, ready to hand off to a smaller rig. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. A pressure spike screamed through the rig's monitors. That's bad news. Oil and gas were sneaking into the well, a ticking time bomb. The crew ran a test, then another. Same result. You'd think they'd stop, right? Nope. BP was burning over $1 million a day on this rig, already 6 weeks behind schedule. Stopping wasn't an option. But here's where it gets worse. Way worse. What happened next turned a warning into a catastrophe. Just before 10 p.m., a geyser of mud and seawater erupted from the well, showering the rig. Before anyone could react, oil and gas rushed up, igniting in a massive explosion. Of the 126 people on board, 115 were rescued, but 11 men, fathers, brothers, friends, were never found. The Coast Guard searched 1,940 square miles of ocean, but by day 3, hope was gone. Those men were near the blast, unable to escape. Think about that for a second. 11 lives lost in a split second. Could you keep working knowing your workplace ignored warnings like that? The rig burned for 2 days, a floating inferno the size of 3 football fields. Emergency responders tried to douse the flames, but the remote location and leaking oil made it impossible. By April 22nd, the Deepwater Horizon groaned, tilted, and sank to the ocean floor. You might think that was the end, but it was just the beginning. Deep below, the well was now gushing oil into the Gulf, unstoppable, filling the sea with a toxic flood. Here's a question for you. How much oil do you think spilled? A few barrels? A few thousand? Hold that thought. You'll be shocked by the answer. BP initially claimed no oil was leaking. Days later, they admitted the truth. The well was spewing oil at an alarming rate. The Gulf of Mexico spill wasn't just a leak, it was an environmental disaster threatening everything from marine life to coastal communities. Official reports pegged the spill at 134 million gallons. But independent scientists, they calculated 210 million gallons, enough to fill 3/4 of the Empire State Building. That's right, imagine one of the world's most iconic skyscrapers brimming with crude oil. And every gallon coated miles of ocean, killing wildlife and choking ecosystems. But here's the real gut punch. This disaster could have been stopped. So why wasn't it? Stay with me because the failures are about to pile up. Welcome to Act 2, where we uncover how engineers battled the oil spill disaster to plug a hole 5,000 feet underwater. Think of this like a high-stakes chess game against nature itself. Every move critical, every mistake catastrophic. Let's break down the 3-step blueprint they used to fight the Deepwater Horizon leak. The heart of the disaster was the blowout preventer, or BOP, a massive safeguard on the seafloor designed to stop oil and gas from escaping. It's like the emergency brake on a runaway train, except this brake failed. The BOP had two systems: pipe rams to clamp the pipe shut and annular preventers for a rubber seal. Both were deployed during the explosion, but it was too late. Oil was already above the BOP, racing to the surface. There was a final failsafe: the blind shear ram, a blade meant to cut the pipe and seal it. Crew tried to activate it, but a power outage stopped them. Worse, the automatic trigger failed too. Why? Nobody knew. Hold up. How does a failsafe fail? That's like your airbag not deploying in a crash. A remote-operated vehicle, ROV, was sent to investigate. What it found was devastating. The blind shear ram did engage, but the pipe had buckled, so the blade only punctured it, making the leak worse. Now you're staring at a broken pipe, gushing oil like a fire hose. What's your next move? Engineers didn't panic. They got creative. Their first idea? A coffer dam, a 100-ton steel and concrete dome to cover the leak, like putting a lid on a boiling pot. The plan was to funnel oil through a pipe to a ship above. Sounds genius, right? But here's where 90% of plans fail. Reality hits. As the coffer dam descended, methane gas formed ice crystals, clogging the dome's opening. Oil filled the structure, turning it into a giant balloon. It rocketed toward the surface, nearly crashing into a response vessel. Disaster averted. But the dam sank, useless. Back to the drawing board. Next, they tried a simpler approach, inserting a smaller pipe directly into the broken well to siphon oil to a tanker. It worked, partially. Oil was collected, but leaks persisted. Question: would you risk making a leak worse to stop it? That's exactly what they did next. Enter the junk shot. Picture this. A ship pumps golf balls, tires, and knotted rope into the BOP to clog it, followed by heavy mud and cement. It's like stuffing a toilet to stop it overflowing. But the well's pressure was too strong. The junk was spat back out. Multiple attempts, same result. Worse, experts warned that pushing too hard could cause an underwater blowout, with oil erupting from the seafloor itself. Plan abandoned. While these quick fixes failed, the ultimate solution was already in motion: relief wells. Imagine drilling a new borehole to intersect the leaking one, then pumping mud and cement to choke it. It's like performing surgery on the ocean floor. Drilling began 12 days after the explosion, with a second well as backup. But this would take months, so engineers revisited the dome idea, this time with a smaller, tighter cap fitted directly onto the BOP. Here's the twist. To install the cap, they had to cut the damaged pipe, which would increase the leak by 20%. Risky? Absolutely. Worth it? Let's find out. Oil poured out faster than ever, but engineers pumped warm water to prevent ice crystals. After days of tension, the cap was secured. Oil flowed to collection ships, and the leak slowed. Over the next month, better caps were installed, each reducing the leak further. On day 86, a tight cap finally stopped the flow. But could it hold? The Gulf was still drowning in oil. What came next sealed the deal, literally. On day 110, the first relief well reached the original borehole. Heavy mud and cement were pumped in, permanently sealing the well. The BP oil spill was over, but the damage was done. So, how much oil spilled? Official estimates say 134 million gallons, half the Empire State Building's volume. Independent researchers claim 210 million gallons, 3/4 full. Either way, it's the largest accidental spill ever, coating miles of ocean and killing countless animals. Think about this. Every gallon of oil can cover a football field. Imagine millions of football fields, black and lifeless. That's the environmental disaster you're dealing with. Now, let's talk transformation. Before the Deepwater Horizon disaster, the Gulf of Mexico was a vibrant ecosystem, supporting fishermen, wildlife, and coastal communities. After, it was a war zone of oil and despair. But here's what happened next, and why it matters to you. Thanks to the engineers' relentless work, the leak was stopped. Cleanup efforts cost BP over $1 billion, with $6 million spent daily. Wetlands were restored, beaches cleaned, and communities began to heal. Imagine you're that fisherman again. Before, your livelihood was gone. After, you're back on the water, your net's full, your future brighter. Or picture the dolphins. Fewer strandings, a sign of recovery. Take Jane, a hypothetical Gulf resident. Her family's restaurant closed when the spill hit, but with cleanup funds and community support, she reopened, now thriving. Or look at the scientists who monitored the Gulf's recovery. Data shows fish populations rebounding years later. This is what resilience looks like. But here's the catch. Could you trust the system again after this? The BP oil spill wasn't just a disaster, it was a wake-up call. The transformation isn't just about the Gulf, it's about what you take away. The Deepwater Horizon disaster teaches us that cutting corners can cost everything. Whether it's in your workplace, your investments, or your environment, prioritizing safety and accountability saves lives. Post-Deepwater Horizon, the oil industry overhauled safety standards. New regulations mandated better BOP testing and emergency response plans. You can apply this lesson too. Double-check the systems you rely on, whether it's your car, your job, or your planet. Quick question, what's one safety check you've skipped lately? Comment below. Let's start a conversation. So, where does this leave you? The Gulf of Mexico spill shows that even the worst disasters can spark change. You can be part of that change. Stay informed, demand accountability, and protect what matters. But here's the final twist. The Gulf is still recovering, and another spill could be one mistake away. Will you be ready to act? If this story moved you, don't stop here. Subscribe for more deep dives into history's biggest moments, and hit the bell so you never miss a video. Want to learn about another engineering marvel? Check out my next video on how Formula One pit crews change tires in 2.5 seconds. Link in the description. And if you're ready to uncover more hidden truths about the oil spill disaster, comment Deepwater below. Let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious.